let's make a couple of sourdough loaves. So I'm making two side by side, and one of them is a double chocolate loaf and the other is a croissant loaf. The croissant loaf is not quite like a croissant is, but it is definitely really good. So get ready to screenshot because I'm going to put both those recipes up. I'm also going to say what is in each one, of course. So for the double chocolate loaf, you're going to do 350 grams of warm water and 125 grams of active sourdough. Mix those together, and then you're going to put 50 grams of brown sugar and 50 grams of cocoa. I also mixed those together with 11 grams of salt just so that they could be well combined. And then you're going to add your bread flour, which was 475 grams total. I recommend weighing these things out because it gives you the most accurate of measurements. But you can also find a recipe that uses cups instead if that works for you. I just don't have that handy. But this one did turn out really good, and the only other ingredient you need besides the ones I just said is chocolate chips, and those are to your heart's desire. So I mixed those up as best as I can, and then I ended up kneading it for probably about 5 minutes or so, just so it can be really well combined. This was a pretty dense dough overall, but it turned out fantastic. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. Get ready to screenshot the croissant loaf, and that is going to be 125 grams starter, 350 grams of warm water mixed together, and then 525 grams of bread flour and 10 grams of salt. You're probably thinking, isn't that like every loaf recipe out there? Absolutely. The only difference is you're going to need 1 stick of butter or half a cup of butter, and you're gonna shred that up, which you guys will see me do later. I recommend freezing it for, I don't know, 15 to 30 minutes or so, and then shredding that up and keeping it in the fridge so that the butter stays nice and cold. This loaf, like I've said, turned out fantastic. This one I did not need as much. I actually ended up doing my stretch and folds, which we're gonna get to next. I did not show my stretch and folds that well, but normally how I do them is I lift up from one side and just kind of shake it a little bit so that it can strengthen the gluten, and then I rotate it slightly and just do that on all 4 sides. I normally will go around 1 or 2 times until I feel like it's nice and sturdy, and then I'll cover it for the next round. The chocolate loaf was so hard to do a stretch and fold on because it was just such a dense dough. Like, I could not really pick it up or anything. I think I only ended up doing 2 rounds with the chocolate dough, and I just kind of left it after that because, like I said, it was pretty dense. It wasn't doing a whole lot of stretching and folding, that's for sure. As far as the croissant loaf, I did add half of my butter at the second round of stretch and folds, or let me think. I think it was the second round of stretch and folds. I added in about half of the butter that I had, and then I added the rest during my shaping or lamination stage is what some people call it. And I did that for a reason because, one, I wanted some of the butter to already be incorporated as it was trying to do its bulk fermentation. But 2, I also didn't want to put way too much butter during the shaping stage and having it, just kind of go all over the place. So it's kind of hard to see. Like I said, the angles were not quite there, and I apologize, but I was adding in the butter kind of every stretch and fold I did. And this was my last round of stretch and folds, and then I let it sit on the counter until it got nice and jiggly and ready for me to shape. Onto the shaping portion of the dough. So I did the chocolate one first. Basically, I put some flour down and then I just kind of make a rectangle with my dough, and then I add on whatever my additions are. So in this case, it's chocolate chips, and I just kind of put those on top, and these are just Nestle milk chocolate chips. And I kind of pressed them in a little bit, and then I folded it. Normally every fold, I'll kind of add more chocolate chips or my inclusion. This time, I just kind of kept it to that top layer, if you will, and then you just kind of want to roll it up nice and tight and kind of squeeze your edges in. And then to build that tension, you just kind of want to push and pull the loaf towards you. I did kind of close up the sides and seams, and I did put a cloth in it to kind of help if there was going to be like any, you know, spreading or whatever of, I didn't know what it was going to do while in the fridge, basically, because I haven't made that type of loaf yet, and it was just fine. I just did it just in case so I wouldn't ruin my banneton. So now this is the croissant loaf, and I did basically the same exact steps, put some flour down, and then I laid it into a rectangle and put a hefty layer of butter down. And then as I'm doing my stretch and folds, I kind of was just, as I was doing my folds, I just added in the rest of that and then just made it nice and tight as I could, and trying not to melt any of that butter, of course, and just kind of tucked it into itself. And then I just left those in the fridge overnight for at least 12 hours up to 16. It is now the next day, so I'm ready to bake these loaves. I'm going to start off with my croissant loaf, and I just put it out on some parchment paper, and then I score it with whatever design I want. I mean, there's really no rhyme or reason to it. I just kind of make a nice big, that always happens with my blade. I make a nice big incision, if you will, on the side, and then I just kind of make smaller ones on the other side that are just more surface level, just to give it a little bit of expanding room, if you will. And then after, and while I'm actually doing this part, I will leave my Dutch oven in the oven that's preheating. So I usually preheat my oven to 450, and I'll leave my Dutch oven in there. I try to do my Dutch oven more than open bake because Dutch ovens are just more controlled in my opinion, but I do want to learn how to open bake my loaves better so that I don't always have to clean out my Dutch oven every time. So my Dutch oven is technically preheated. It's been in there with the in the oven as it's preheating to 450, and I do have a cup of ice cubes on the side that I just put in there for the steaming factor, and I'll kind of put those in the side, and then I'll put the lid back on and put it back in the oven. So I'll leave it covered for 25 minutes total, and then I will take it out, take the lid off, put it back in uncovered for another 24-25 minutes or so. Typically 24 minutes seems to be my sweet spot with my oven, but you obviously will have to play around with yours. And it looked absolutely stunning when it came out. I mean, I would not say a full-on croissant looking loaf, but it is delicious because all that butter just melts in there, and it is literally fantastic. Like, I will not make my loaves any other way. After they're done baking, I leave my loaves out for about an hour before cutting into them, and that's what I recommend people do with their loaves, just to give it time to set. Now I am shaping my chocolate loaf, and this is like the same concept. I put some parchment paper down, I put the loaf on it, and then I basically just make whatever design. It's always a bigger incision just to let it puff up as much as it wants to, and then a few smaller ones that I don't really know how to do anything fancy yet. I haven't learned. I've tried, but I haven't learned how to do that yet, so there's nothing really to it. Now this one looked really weird at first. When I took it out of the banneton, I was a little worried, but when this baked up, it was so beautiful. Like one of the most beautiful loaves I've ever had. Like it rose perfectly and it just looked beautiful on the inside. I don't know what was different. I don't know if it was like that extra cocoa powder, or I don't know what it was. It just ended up so pretty. And of course I am doing this while my croissant loaf is finishing baking. But once I switch them out, then I'll go ahead and put this one in, and I do the same exact concept. It is the moment of truth for cutting into it, and just look at how pretty it looks on the outside and the inside. Man, the butter is just all melted. It literally looks stunning, and it tastes so good, especially right out of the oven and heated up. It tastes literally amazing. It's soft. It is one of the best loaves I've ever made. My chocolate one ended up absolutely beautiful as well. Again, I don't know what was different about this loaf, because normally my loaves are kind of meh, but this one just was so pretty. Everyone loved the taste of it too. That double chocolate taste is just phenomenal, but look at that swirl. Anyways, catch me in my next video as I make some more loaves.